Welcome to the Windsor Wednesday show. Thank you all for joining us. And for those who don't know, Windsor Wednesday, each Wednesday, we invite an alumnus, a faculty or staff member, and a student on the show to share their University of Windsor story. So I welcome the guests that are on the show today. And to kind of give you a brief background of the guests, we have Dr. Snowdon on the bottom. She's a professor of strategy and entrepreneurship, also the scientific director and CEO at Supply Chain Advancement Network and Health, and the academic chair at World Health Innovation Network. So thank you, Dr. Snowdon, for being on the panel today. We also have Ruben Tar up top. He's a fourth-year business student, and he's the CEO of the John Simpson Student Investment Fund. He's also specializing in finance. And then down below, we have Mayor Drew Dilkens, City of Windsor Mayor. He also graduated from the Business Administration program at the Odette School of Business and also has a law degree, a Juris Doctor Degree from the University of Windsor Law. So thank you all. We have a crazy high caliber panel on today's show, and I'm glad to have each of you here today. So to kick off the show, we'll start with the first question. It asks, what has been your most memorable moment at the University of Windsor and why? We'll start with Ruben at the top.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lyndon. My most memorable experience is actually an extended period of time. It's my time on the John Simpson Odette Student Investment Fund. And to the audience, we are a student investment fund focused kind of on careers in finance, learning more. And I think my favorite part about it was meeting up with a group of like-minded students who are passionate about the industry, wanting to learn more, growing those relationships, and also improving academically, professionally, and personally through the experience. Yeah, it's been a second to none experience, and I recommend that to students exploring similar pathways.
Yes, and Ruben, for those students that are watching, please just tell a little bit more about what the John Simpson Investment Fund is all about, just for those watching who may not know.
For sure. So we're a student investment fund based out of the University of Windsor's Odette School of Business. We manage approximately $185,000, book value $150,000 in the public financial market. So that's split between fixed income ETFs and then primarily North American public equities, market capitalized greater than 500 million. And yeah, our goal is just to invest in the best risk-adjusted return prospects throughout that market on a growth value basis. So we're very much value investors, also growth investors as well.
Excellent. Yes, the lab in Odette is spectacular. There's so many different computer systems in there, and I definitely recommend if somebody is interested in the business degree and program to check out the lab. I imagine Ruben will be in there for a tour if you're ever interested.
100%.
We'll go down, and we'll go down to Mayor Dilkens at the bottom to just share what has been a memorable moment while he's been at the University of Windsor.
Well, thanks, Lyndon. I've actually had many, and I'm not sure I could pick out just one, but I had the benefit, of course, of doing my undergrad degree in the Odette School of Business, and I'll date myself a little bit and say I entered the business program the first year that building opened. So I walked in and people didn't even know, the profs didn't even know where the light switches were in 104 to turn the lights on in the big auditorium. But that building brought a lot of excitement with the faculty and amongst the faculty, and certainly the students there having new facilities that were great and still are great. And state-of-the-art technology in there. And then, I did that when I was a young guy like your age, but then I had the benefit of going back as well and studying law at the University of Windsor when I was already married with two young kids and at a different point in my life. And I kind of laugh because I had a lot of the same university experiences that many have when you're young. And then going back in your 30s, when all of your colleagues in school are saying, "Hey, Drew, do you want to go to the pub on Tuesday night?" And I was saying, "No, I'm going home to give my kids a bath." And so had some great times, literally just 1,000 laughs. And I'm so thankful for all of the experiences I had with the University of Windsor. And I feel really blessed in the position that I have now to be able to have a great relationship, whether it was with Alan Wildeman or Rob Gordon now, both are doing a fantastic job navigating through and really helping to build the university and set the stage for its continued success. And I'm so proud of the institution and all that they've accomplished over the last decade. And when I look at their strategic plan and where they're going, it makes me equally excited as well.
And I do have to ask, you mentioned that you came and you returned and to study at the University of Windsor again. How come you chose to study law at the University of Windsor?
Well, because I was a city councilor here, so I was working, and it was the only, frankly, practical option. And so, it's a great law school, ranked very, very highly. So it was really my pleasure and honor to be accepted to be able to study law. And I'm kind of one of those lifelong learners where, I'll always be working on something and trying to build brain capacity and learn something new to become just hopefully a smarter, better human being.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Snowdon, we'll go down to you. What has been a memorable moment at the University of Windsor for you?
I agree with Drew. I have many, and most of them are related to having the absolute joy of teaching just some incredibly talented students, right? In the last few years, I've been teaching in the MBA program, and there is just no shortage of really phenomenal students that are such a pleasure to work with and help them achieve many opportunities in their learning journey and their career goals. So I feel very lucky. Never a semester goes by that I don't have just some really lovely and very motivated and very talented students to work with. So for a professor, that's memorable, and I'm lucky enough that it happens all the time. I think another, in terms of what my work has been like at University of Windsor, a couple things. University of Windsor faculty are a culture of collaboration, so a tremendous opportunity and joy working across disciplines. So an early one, Auto 21, created the opportunity to work with engineering and human kinetics and math stats and artificial intelligence experts, and we created new products on the market. We spun off companies with partners like Magna and really achieved some very exciting things, which set a stage for innovation in broadly speaking that I have pursued ever since. I was lucky enough to be awarded a Fulbright scholarship. That was a high point. So it's all about working in an environment where collaboration with colleagues that you never thought you'd have the opportunity to work with is possible, and really leads to, I think, some really impressive outcomes that change the lives of Canadians. So for me, that's a real high point.
Awesome. And I do have to ask, like, you bring in millions of dollars of funding for research. Yeah. It's incredible. It's really astounding. And I have to ask, what is that moment like when you're hearing this? You just got $1 million for this type of research. What is that moment like?
Well, there's two parts to that moment. One part is always extraordinarily excitement that you were ranked, number 10 out of 1,500 or whatever it is. And then there's the realization that there's an awful lot of work that comes with it. So it's excitement very briefly, and then it's the be careful what you wish for, because now, and this most recent award is about mobilizing Canadian researchers across 7 provinces and working with very significant numbers of partners. And it's exciting, but it's a lot of work and lots of potential. So it's the potential right now, and this work is focused on how do we help make sure every Canadian stays safe in future phases of this pandemic. It's exciting and working many, many hours a day to make it happen.
Yeah, a variety of hard work has to go into this.
Yeah.
And we'll go to you, Ruben. Who at the University of Windsor? So, Ruben, I have to jump up to you. Who at the University of Windsor has or had a positive impact on your learning experience?
Fantastic. So at the University of Windsor, and I'll mention a few names and then I'll resort to the one big hitter there. But On the fund, Carl and Josh have been my longtime advisors on kind of operating it and managing it for growth, which was great. And Nico Fazio and Adam Obide have been great mentors while I was kind of growing up through the BCom program there. Now, academically, I would have to say that there's been a standalone experience where I was actually taught by Brad Ising Investments. He leads the portfolio management crew for BMO Nesbitt Burns, but he came in to teach one semester at the University of Windsor. And that was by a landslide my greatest learning experience. I learned a ton academically about the finance, capital markets, corporate finance space, but then also a lot of personal lessons, just kind of how to be more professional, timely, career ready, and how to kind of approach your career in a very long-term, wise perspective. There's a ton of people that I didn't mention. They know who they are, but those few stand far above.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Ruben. We'll jump down to you, Mayor Dilkens. During your time at the University of Windsor, who's had that impact on you? Oh, your mic is muted.
Well, let's just change that then. There are a number of people who I think at the university who I've been blessed to have been taught by, but also who I've interacted with on a professional level, who I think really helped the university stand out and stand apart. And Snowdon certainly is one person who has put the university on the map and doing great things. But you talked and mentioned Auto 21, and Peter Fries was instrumental behind that, doing a great job. Narayan Carr and the Faculty of Engineering really doing some amazing work. In the business faculty, Mitch Fields was a prof of mine, Dean Fields, I should say, for training and development. And I think he was a very inspirational professor and certainly doing a great job for the business faculty as well. Martha Reevely was a professor numerous times and still there. Always had tons of respect for her. And if I think of the law faculty, Bruce Ellman does a great job in his role. Super smart man, whip smart. Loved interacting with him. And on a professional level, I look at the work that Bill Anderson is doing, and the Cross Border Institute, I think, is incredible. And of course, Rob Gordon has been great from the moment he hit the ground. Certainly, he has just been excellent to work with. I think we've got a great relationship, and he's got a great vision for the university, and I'm excited to work with him. But let me mention one fellow, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. And I never studied political science at the University of Windsor, but I did have great interaction with Lloyd Brownjohn, who is now a professor emeritus. And when I did my doctorate in business, Lloyd stepped in, and he was my thesis, my supervisor, my dissertation supervisor. And so he stepped into a role sort of by happenstance. And I called him up one day and I said, the one fellow who was serving ended up leaving the school. And so I was sort of in the lurch, and Lloyd said, you know what, your topic I know all about because I actually wrote the book. And he stepped in, and he was just so incredible to work with. And that is one guy, because it was such an intense process getting to the end of a doctoral program. I learned an immense amount in terms of my writing skills, in terms of how to think about certain situations, and that is the one beauty of the academic experience at the university that I gained, was really an element of critical thinking. And so I think it's fair to say the higher you go, the more you have to employ that. And he was just great to work with, and certainly, embodies the spirit of the University of Windsor each and every day. He still does, even though he's technically retired.
Awesome, thank you. It's great to see all these different faculty members and staff that really touched on your learning experience, and now you're able to really apply it in the work you do for the City of Windsor. Dr. Snowdon, we'll go down to you. Who has had a positive impact while working at the University of Windsor?
That's a big question, and rather than go down a listed names, I have had the absolute honor to work with multiple and different faculties, and for me and the work I've been doing in bringing innovations to health systems, that's been critical. So Ziad Kobti and Bob Kent in computer science collaborated on how do we create algorithms for health systems to help keep our patients safe and healthy and well. we were creating AI tools and algorithms in 2005 and 6 when nobody in healthcare was even talking about that. So they really opened a whole pathway of innovation that I think many health systems are only now today globally starting to recognize and see the value in, and we're continuing to do that work. HK is another group that were amazing. I studied how children are injured in vehicles. Well, you can't do that without great biomechanics expertise like Jim Potvin. And I worked closely on how might seating and keeping kids safe in vehicles and working with our respective police departments and helping them understand the dynamics of what parents are doing for and with their children to keep them safe in vehicles, and how we work together as a community. The mayor's office and all his many team members tolerated us being out on these car seat clinics all over the region, all focused on helping kids stay safe in vehicles. And you can't do that easily in other universities. I've worked in many other universities, and that collaborative spirit across disciplines just didn't exist. Engineering is another one. Bill Altenhoff, same thing, worked a lot on how do we make sure that we're creating the safest seats and safety products for kids, and what that means in terms of the nurse in ICU, which is where I started, who sees these catastrophic head and neck injuries in children that are really not easily recovered from, and most children just don't recover from. So engaging with engineering and having them think about those kinds of injuries and how petite and tiny our little ones are, and how do we create those protective products out on the markets, was also very instrumental. Now I'm working with Suzanne McMurphy. She leads the ethics board in the university, and thinking about how do we create strategic partnerships with industry and global health systems. I lead Scan Health, which you mentioned, which are over 120 leaders across 9 countries. So how do we create environments where we can easily and work productively as partners, but still protect those ethics and policy frameworks that are just critical to research in every country, but are vastly different in every country. So she's been an amazing resource from the research side. I could go on and on, but those are just a snapshot of some of the many extremely talented faculties and teams I've had the pleasure to work with.
Excellent. It's great to see so many different faculty groups really elevating your research that you're conducting at the University of Windsor. To go into our last question for today, we'll start with Ruben. What is something you wish you knew when you're entering your first year of university? And this knowledge, how can it be of help to students that are just about to enter today? So we'll have you go first, Ruben.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lyndon. I thought about this question quite hard, and there's really no correct answer. There's so many different pathways that can lead to success out of the University of Windsor. But to simplify it, I would say leverage your resources. Oftentimes, starting at least, you would think you have one objective, which is go to the classes, get good grades, maybe get some work experience and graduate. But there's so many more things to be offered. I myself, as we mentioned several times, am part of the extracurricular program, the investment fund, but also was part of great groups such as Enactus and whatnot. And the more you kind of leverage these resources or learn from a mentor that's older than you, the faster you develop and the more effectively you develop. So if you leverage those resources earlier, your runway is a lot longer, and at the end of the day, your degree is going to mean a lot more to you than it would beforehand. So absolutely, that's what I would stick with.
Awesome, thank you, Ruben. Mayor Dilkens, we'll go down to you.
Yeah, I would say that there are so many opportunities given to students at university that when I first started, I didn't realize all of the things I could get involved in. And I wasn't sure what to do or maybe how to go about it the best, trying to figure out, making sure that academics was a top priority. And I may have left a few things that were of interest to me on the sideline. And I would say, don't go in and try and join 15 clubs because you think that's going to build your resume and someone's going to be impressed on the fact that you were a member of a club for which you attended 2 meetings and really didn't do anything. I would take one or two key things that, like Ruben has done, where there was something of strong interest to him, and he got involved, and he's taken a leadership role and doing really, really well, showing leadership in that role. So pick one of the couple things that are of real interest to you in the faculty or in the university in general. Get involved and show how good you are. Like, just get out there and get involved, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's the beauty of university. It's harder to make mistakes when you're actually working, but it's a lot easier to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes when you're in university. So don't be afraid to do it. And like Ruben said, really, you talked about the runway and the length of the runway. Build those networks and contacts. It's a great place to do it. And, Lyndon, look at little Lyndon Crane right here on the screen, because Lyndon is one of the examples where he reached out and said, can I do an interview? And I said, who is Lyndon Crane? Who is this guy who wants to interview? And because it's a fair question, and we ask anyone who would want to interview. And so I asked around, and some people knew Lyndon and had an interaction with him from the business faculty. And so I watched a couple of the interviews, and what I really liked about Lyndon was he was very, very positive. That he had a good spirit, and half of succeeding is making sure you have a good spirit in life, that you're positive of what you do, and you convey positive energy. And so after my interview with Lyndon, I simply said to Andrew in my office, my chief of staff, I want to hire Lyndon for the summer. Can we bring him in? Let's get him some work to do. I never saw his resume, don't know anything about him, but I think if he's in the University of Windsor Faculty of Business, he's got to be half decent, and his spirit and his positivity is infectious. So let's give him an opportunity for the summer. And that's what happened with Lyndon. So build your network. I don't think you ever tried, Lyndon, to build this network, but welcome to the mayor's office for the summer. And it's just an example of how you can do things, and you never know what you do, how it impacts other people, or what can come of it. So don't be afraid to take risks. Try different things. Half of life is figuring out what you don't like to do as well. And so try it, explore, learn, and just get out there. Put yourself out there.
Thank you, and I really appreciate those kind words. And I do have to echo off what you're saying, is get involved and reach out to people. Sometimes they may not answer, but it's important to reach out to people that you look up to and you want to have some type of mentorship from. And like Mayor Dilkens said, it did work out for me. I was able to have him on a show and really try to elevate some of the interests I'm interested in marketing. And this opportunity at the mayor's office really allows me to apply what I'm learning in the school and in the field. So it was just from networking and getting myself out there that kind of led to this opportunity. So I really appreciate that comment. And we'll go over to Dr. Snowdon to talk a little bit about what is something that you think a first-year student should know, and what's something you learned?
Well, it's been 150 years since I was a first-year student. Having said that, I guess building on Drew's comments, I think, and I see this so often in students, it's going to school is about finding what's meaningful and important to you. And whether you get a 72 on one course or a 92 on another, some students, I think, take it as though, oh, if I only got 72, that's a failure. In fact, it has no meaning whatsoever. The question for students is, will this help me, and how does this help me achieve what's meaningful to me? So I think, my best advice is think about what drives you, what's important to you, and where and how what you're learning helps you get where you want to go. My younger brother defines failure in a very interesting way. Failure is not, did you get a 72 or a 22? It's failure is a first attempt in learning. So positioning grades and courses and all of the many things your professors ask you to do, think about it as an opportunity for learning and chalk it up. We learn far more from the things that were hard to do than we learn from the things that were pretty easy. So position your learning in terms of what's valuable to you, what drives you, where you want to go, what you want to achieve. And that's what going to school is about. It's not about who got what grade on what test, because nobody cares. As I said, I was a first-year student 1,000 years ago, maybe okay, 100. I don't have a clue what I got on any of those courses. And nobody's ever asked me, what did you get on chemistry in first year at Western? It's like, I don't know. It's about what matters to you and your learning along the way. It's not about the grades.
Thank you, Dr. Snowdon. That was a great way to wrap up today's conversation. And for the panelists today, thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch to join the Windsor Wednesday show. And I do want to encourage those students that are watching. Tomorrow, we do have a live stream for Race, Campus Life, and Growing Up, 2 p.m. Eternity Meredith, author of best-selling book, they said this would be fun, Race, Campus Life, and Growing Up, will be live on the University of Windsor Student Experience Facebook page with other leaders from the Windsor community. Tomorrow's live stream will discuss about anti-Black racism on Canadian campuses and what transformative ways it can be addressed. So I do encourage students watching to check out tomorrow's live stream. And today's guest, thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.